I watched my parents scan their boarding passes, then my phone buzzed once. Your ticket has been cancelled. I looked up. My mother didn't even flinch. I opened my mouth to speak, but my sister slipped my passport into her purse like it was a receipt, and walked away. I was standing at the airport gate in Rome, no phone, no wallet, no passport, while my own family vanished into security. And when my knees finally buckled, a man in a charcoal suit leaned down and whispered the last thing I expected, "Pretend you're my wife. Right now. My driver's coming." His smile didn't reach his eyes. Trust me, they didn't just abandon you. They're stealing from you. I didn't know how he could be so sure. But 10 minutes later, I learned why. My name is Elena Vargas, and I was 39 when my family tried to erase me in a foreign country. Let me back up. This trip wasn't even their idea. It was mine. A fresh start vacation after my divorce. The kind therapists suggest when you're trying to remember who you are outside of survival mode. I paid for 3 tickets. I booked the hotels. I handled the itinerary. I even upgraded us to seats so we could all be comfortable. My father called it a blessing. My mother called it a second chance for the family. My sister Maribel just smiled and let me do what I always did, fix everything. But the truth is, they didn't come to heal. They came to collect. The argument started at the check-in counter, right after my mom asked, too casually, if I could send a little money back home as soon as we landed. Not next week. Not after I got paid. Not when I got settled. Now. I told her no. Not even loud. Not even rude. Just a calm, steady, I can't keep doing that. I'm rebuilding. I need my savings. My father's expression hardened like I'd insulted him publicly. My mother's eyes narrowed. And my sister, who had spent the whole trip taking selfies and calling me bestie, leaned in and said, "Sweet as sugar, you're acting unstable again." That word. Unstable. It landed on my chest like a weight. I didn't even realize how much power they'd been giving that narrative, until I saw what they did next. My mom said, "Let me hold the passports, it's easier," like she always did. My sister said, "Let me borrow your phone for photos," like she always did. Then, right before security, my dad turned, looked me dead in my face, and said, "You've changed. You're selfish now." And they walked away. I tried to follow. The gate agent stopped me. "Ma'am, your boarding pass." I held mine up. She scanned it. Her face changed. Then she said quietly, "This ticket was cancelled 15 minutes ago." My throat went dry. "That's impossible." She scanned again. Same result. Cancelled. I spun around. I could still see my parents' backs moving through the crowd. "Mom!" I shouted. No turn. "Dad!" Nothing. I ran, actually ran, until I hit the security barrier. My voice was shaking as I tried to explain, but security didn't care about my family drama. They cared that I was causing a scene. And that's when I realized the full horror. No phone. No passport. No wallet, because my mother had insisted she'd hold it in her bag for safety. No way to call anyone. I stood there like a ghost. People passed me, rolling luggage, laughing, living. And I had never felt so small. That's when he approached. Tall. Early 40s. American. Calm like he had nowhere to be, and everywhere to control. He watched me for a second, like he was measuring something. Then he leaned in and said, "You need to come with me. Pretend you're my wife. Right now." I blinked. What? He didn't raise his voice. He didn't rush. He just said it again, slow, "If you don't leave this area with someone who can vouch for you, security is going to walk you out. And your family is going to file something the moment you're officially missing." My heart slammed. "How would you know that?" His eyes flicked toward the hallway where my family disappeared. Then he said the sentence that changed everything, because they've been asking questions. About you. About your mental health. And about what you own. I stared at him. He didn't look like a hero. He looked like a man who understood predators, because he'd been fighting them his whole life. My name is Graham Weller, he said. And my driver is coming now. If you want to keep your life, you walk with me. My stomach twisted. But I had one thought, clear as a bell, my family didn't just leave me. They planned this. So I took his hand. And I walked. Outside, a black car pulled up like it belonged to a different world. Graham opened the door, and I slid in shaking. The car moved. And for the first time in 10 minutes. I could breathe. I looked at him. Why are you helping me? He didn't answer right away. Then he said, almost bored, because I hate people who play innocent while they set traps. He handed me a phone. Brand new. Call someone you trust. My fingers trembled as I dialed the only person I knew wouldn't judge me, my cousin Tessa in New Jersey. She answered on the second ring. Elena? Your mom called me crying. She said you had a breakdown and ran off. My blood turned cold. I looked at Graham. He gave me a tiny nod like, there it is. Tessa, I whispered, listen carefully. They canceled my ticket. They took my passport. They took my phone. I didn't run. They left me. Silence. Then Tessa said softly, I knew it. My throat tightened. You knew? Not this exact thing, she said. But Elena, they've been talking for weeks. Your mom asked me if I knew any lawyers who handle guardianship stuff. My heart started pounding again. What kind of guardianship stuff? Tessa's voice dropped. Conservatorship. Like, claiming you can't manage your own finances. My stomach flipped. I gripped the phone so hard it hurt. Tessa continued, and your sister told my husband you were spiraling after the divorce, and that the family might need to step in to protect you from making reckless decisions. Reckless decisions. Like, keeping my money. Like, saying no. Like, living my life. Then Tessa said the part that made my vision blur, they were asking about your grandmother's apartment in Manhattan. My grandmother. The woman who worked 2 jobs, saved every penny, and left me her apartment because she used to tell me, you're the only one who never asked me for anything, Elena. You just showed up. That apartment wasn't just property. It was proof that someone saw value in me, even when my own parents didn't. And they wanted it. Graham's jaw tightened when he heard the word conservatorship. He looked straight ahead and said, quietly, I knew it. I covered the phone. How? He glanced at me. Because your father approached me yesterday. I froze. What? He recognized me. Asked if I was the real estate guy. Then he asked something very specific. My mouth went dry. What did he ask? Graham's voice turned colder. He asked if I knew how fast someone could get an emergency petition approved in New York, if the adult had a history of anxiety. I swear my heart stopped. My parents weren't worried about my well-being. They were building a case against me. And the airport abandonment? That was their setup. If I was stranded, confused, unreachable, they could claim I was unstable. They could claim I disappeared. They could claim they had to step in. And by the time I got home, a judge could be deciding who controlled my life. Graham leaned in closer, voice low, Elena, your family didn't abandon you because they were angry. He paused. They abandoned you because they needed a story. That night, I didn't go to a hotel. Graham drove me to a private office near the city, quiet, secure, where his attorney met us after hours. A woman named Claire with sharp eyes and a calm voice that made me feel safe. She looked at me and said, first, we document everything. Second, we get you a replacement passport. Third, we get ahead of this legally. She slid paperwork across the table. Do you have proof your family holds your passport and wallet? I laughed once, bitter. They took everything. Claire didn't flinch. Then we create proof. Graham nodded toward a laptop. We'll start with surveillance footage. Airport cameras. Check-in logs. Ticket cancellation timestamp. My stomach twisted. Can we even get that? Claire smiled, small but confident. We can request it. Especially if we file a report for theft and unlawful restraint of documents. The word theft sounded extreme. But then I remembered my mother's hand zipping her purse over my passport like it belonged to her. And my father walking away without looking back. And my sister calling me unstable like she was reading from a script. So I whispered, do it. 2 days later, my new phone lit up nonstop. Voicemails. Texts. Emails. My mother sobbing, where are you? You're scaring us. My father's message was colder, you're embarrassing the family. My sister wrote, please call. People are worried. You need help. But the timing was wrong. Because they weren't relieved. They were frantic. And now I knew why. Their story wasn't working, because I wasn't missing. I was silent. And silence is dangerous when someone's trying to control the narrative. That's when Graham said something that made my skin prickle. They're going to come for you in person. How do you know? Because people who try to take power don't stop when you say no, he replied. They stop when they're exposed. On the 4th day, Claire called me. Her voice was steady, but serious. They filed the petition. My chest tightened. They actually did it? Yes, she said. Emergency request for temporary conservatorship. They attached old emails you sent during your divorce. They're painting you as emotionally unstable and financially reckless. I felt dizzy. Graham looked at me and said, calm as ever, good. I stared at him. He continued, now they've put it in writing. Now we can crush it. We walked into that hearing like I was walking into war. My parents sat on one side, dressed in soft colors like victims. My sister held my mother's hand. My father avoided my eyes. And the judge looked down at me like I was a file folder. Claire stood. Clear voice. No emotion. Your Honor, this petition is not about safety. It is about assets. Then she presented the evidence, the exact timestamp of my ticket cancellation, a record that my ticket was cancelled from my father's email, airport footage showing my mother taking my passport, a statement from security documenting my distress and lack of documents, and the final blow. A voicemail my father left my cousin by mistake. Once she's declared unstable, the apartment issue becomes simple. My mother's face drained of color. My sister started crying. My father finally looked up, too late. The judge's expression changed. Not sympathy. Disgust. The petition was dismissed on the spot. And the judge said something that I will never forget. This court does not reward families who weaponize mental health to gain control over property. Outside the courthouse, my mother tried to touch my arm. Elena, please, I stepped back. No, my father's voice cracked, just slightly. We were trying to protect you. I looked him straight in the eyes. You tried to own me. My sister whispered, it went too far. And for the first time, I didn't soften. I didn't fix it. I didn't rescue them from the consequences. I simply said, you made a plan without me. So now I'm making one without you. Then I turned and walked away. A month later, I stood alone in my grandmother's Manhattan apartment. Sunlight through tall windows. Quiet floors. A home that belonged to me, fully, legally, undeniably. Graham didn't ask for anything from me. He didn't flirt. He didn't play savior. He just said one honest thing as we stood by the door, you weren't weak, Elena. I swallowed. I felt weak. He shook his head. No. You were trained to doubt yourself. That's different. Then he left. And for the first time in my life, I felt something I hadn't felt since I was a kid, free. If you read this far, I have one question. If your own family tried to label you unstable just to control what you own, would you forgive them or expose them? Drop your answer in the comments, forgive or expose. I'm reading everything.